How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Patriot DIY channel. Now, I know we all like to add accessories like speakers and lights and things like that to our golf carts. And a lot of times the guys will just run the power for those directly to the battery, but that's really not the right way to do it. So if you want to wire up those accessories correctly with a nice professional install, you're going to need to include a DC converter and a fuse box. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I also want to have an easy way to power on and off any accessories that I add to the golf cart. So I'm also going to be adding one of these switch boxes from Nylite. So once you put this whole system together, your DC converter, your fuse box, and then your switch panel, your golf cart will be ready for any accessory that you want to add to it. All right, guys, now when we're looking at lights and speakers and things like that for your golf cart, most of those are going to be 12-volt accessories. The problem with that is your golf cart runs on 36 or 48 volts. And what a lot of people end up doing is they'll either add an additional 12-volt battery or they'll wire all those accessories across just two of the batteries on the golf cart. You're going to be draining power from just two of your batteries instead of across the entire battery bank. And you're going to end up with a lot of battery drain and power issues over time. So the way you really want to do this is to add a DC converter. This is going to convert your 48 or 36 volt system down to 12 volts for your accessories. That way it pulls the power evenly from your entire power bank and then reduces it to the correct voltage for your accessories. And it's really the cleanest and safest way to do it. Now, in addition to the DC converter, I'm also going to be including a little fuse box here. That way I can wire all the positive and negative from my accessories directly into this fuse box. Now I'm going to get in here and show you exactly how I'm doing this. But first, guys, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. Now let's get to work. Now most of the electronics that we're putting down in here are waterproof, but I still want to kind of close off this cavity to prevent excessive water from getting up and splashing on that stuff. So what I did was I picked up a couple panels of this aluminum diamond plate and some angle pieces, and I'm just going to cut this to fit, close off that area, and give us a place to mount our DC converter and these other electronics to. All right, guys, so this is what we got going on down in there now. You can see I got that aluminum sheeting down here in the bottom and on the back, just to kind of close that off. Just attached it through some existing mounting holes there in the battery tray. And we're gonna mount that DC converter and fuse box right back here like this. All right, guys, let's take a look at what we have here. First, we have our DC converter and wiring harness. Now, this is a waterproof DC converter designed to convert 48 volts down to 12 volts to safely power all of your golf cart accessories. It also comes with this wire harness here. We also have this 12 fuse box. So you can see we have location for 12 different accessories. We have all of our positives here, negatives here, and it has an indicator light here to let you know if any of the fuses are blown. It's also going to come with a bunch of fuses to go with it and this nice protective cover. Now, before we install this, we need to take a look at our wiring harness here. You'll notice we have 4 different wires: red, green, black, and yellow. The yellow wire is going to go back to your main battery positive. The black is going to go to your battery negative. The green is going to go to your key switch. So all the accessories that are attached to this system here will be keyed. So when your key is on, they work. When the key is off, they won't work. That's going to help you preserve your battery when it's not in use. And the red wire goes to your accessory. For this example, the red wire is going to go to our positive on the fuse box, and this is going to power everything inside of that fuse box. Now you can see your wiring harness connects to the DC converter just through this connector here, but you are going to need to extend these wires. Your yellow, black, and red wires are all 12 gauge wire, and then your green wire that goes to the key switch is 18 gauge. Now, we'll have a link to all of this along with the extra wire you're going to need linked in the description below if you want to get this for yourself. So first, I'm going to mark the location that I want to mount my DC converter. I'm just going to hold it in place here and mark where I need my screws to go. Then I'll pre-drill these holes. Next, I'm going to mount my fuse panel, and I'm going to run that right about here somewhere. Then I'll start extending these wires for our wire harness. I'll measure the distance I need to get to the battery, then cut the appropriate length and connect it with a butt connector. I'll also add some heat shrink to protect that connection. All right guys, so now I need to run the green wire. So I've already got that wire run from down here where our DC converter is, all the way up into the dash and right here behind the key switch. So now we need to locate which wire is the key to on power. So this is what my key switch looks like. I have a 2019 EasyGo TXT Elite. This is a 6-pin switch. A lot of you guys may have something with just 2 or 3 little spade connectors on the back. But no matter what your ignition switch looks like, you're going to test it the same way with your multimeter. And it's really easy to test which one is your keyed on power. So what you're going to do, you're going to take a multimeter, you're going to put the negative to the negative on your battery. Then you're going to touch the positive to either those spade connectors on each wire, or you can put it inside of this connector and test each location. What you'll find is that some of them have power constantly, and then there will be one that reads 0 on your multimeter until the key is turned on, and then it receives power. And that's the wire that we want to work off of right now. And I'm just going to be using one of these wire tap connectors here. So I'm going to run the keyed wire through this channel here, and then I'm going to put my green wire into this capped off plug. Then when you clamp down on this metal connector, it's going to splice the two together. Always remember before you do any electrical work on your golf cart to switch it over to tow mode. So on mine, it ended up being this position 4, this blue wire, and you can see we just tapped right into that with our green wire from the DC converter. Then I'm going to connect my green wire running up to my key switch, up to the green wire on my DC converter wiring harness. Then I'll connect my red to the main positive terminal on my fuse box. Then I'm going to connect my black to my main negative. And my yellow to my main positive. Only thing left to do now is to hook up the connector. Now it is normal to get a little bit of a spark when this connects, so don't be alarmed if that happens. Alright guys, we got everything wired up. Now you can see how this fuse box is done. We have our red wire going to the DC converter. We have a negative going to the battery. You can see I've already wired up an accessory here, so this red and black wire goes to my headlights, horn, and turn signal assembly. We got that hooked up, got a fuse in there. Only thing left to do now is check to make sure it works. Now I'm not only testing to make sure that what we have wired into this is going to work, I'm also double checking that it only works with the key on. So right now the key is off. Just going to try to hum the horn here. Nothing. Turn the key on. Good to go. I also want to have an easy way to power on and off any accessories that I add to the golf cart. So I'm also going to be adding one of these switch boxes from Nylite. I'm going to mount this in the little cubby hole up on the dash. I'll wire each of these switches back to the fuse box, so whenever I add an accessory, all I have to do is wire down to the switch and to the negative, and then we'll be good to go. All right, this is our switch panel. We have 4 rocker switches, and then we have our USB ports here on the end. Now if you look at the wiring on the back of this, it looks very confusing, but basically each of these switches has 5 terminals on it. All the top terminals are our negatives, and you see they have those daisy chained together with one negative that's going to come out and go to your fuse panel. That's fine the way it is. Our white wires are going to go to the positive on whatever our accessory is. So if I have the positive wire on my light, that's going to go to this. You can see the terminal right beside the white on each one. That is going to power this bottom light right here on the switch, and that's going to be on all the time. As long as the key's on, that light is going to be on, kind of like a dash light. I think what I would rather have is for the switch to be completely dark until I press the button and then this top part lights up. So what I'm actually going to do is disconnect all of these that are leading to that bottom light. And if you look, the middle terminal on each switch is going to be the one that goes back to our fuse panel. The way they have it wired right now, these are all daisy chained together and they go to one power wire. Problem is that all 4 of these switches would end up being on the same circuit if we did it that way. Now I want each of these switches here to go back to its own position on the fuse box. So what I'm going to end up doing is removing all of the red here, and then I'm going to end up running one wire from the center terminal on each switch back to our fuse box. So what we'll end up with is all of our grounds daisy chained together going back to this main ground, and that's going to go to our fuse panel. All of the whites will go to the positive on the accessories themselves, and then we'll have one red coming from each switch that goes back to the fuse panel. So I'm ready to wire up my switch panel, and what I ended up doing was making my own wire harness so I can run my positive wires from all the switches back to the fuse box. That way whenever I'm ready to wire in my accessories, I can wire the power for those directly to the switch, and we already have the jumper that goes back to the fuse box. You can see here what it looks like once I get all those wired into the switch box. Alright guys, so we got our switch box installed. You can see it just went in this little cubby here to the right of the ignition switch, and I routed my wire harness up into the back of that. Got everything wired up to the fuse panel. Now if you're wondering about the little logos on the switches here, the switch panel does come with this sheet full of these transparent stickers so that when you engage the switch and light it up, these little icons will light up as well. I don't have any accessories wired to these yet, but our USB plug is wired up, so if we did everything right, when we turn this key on, we should see that light up. And there we go. As soon as we're ready to wire in some accessories, we just wire into the back of the switch box and we'll be good to go. Now I do have that wire harness for my switches just laying in there for now until I get those wired up. But I think this looks pretty good and it works great. I feel a lot better about having all of my accessories protected by the fuse box, and that DC converter does exactly what it's supposed to do, reducing our 48 volts down to 12 volts for everything we're planning to install on this golf cart. All right guys, that is it for how to install your DC converter, fuse box, and switch panel. So if you have a bunch of accessories like light bars, sound bars, things like that that you want to wire up to your golf cart, this is going to be the safest and most professional way to do it. If you guys have any comments or anything you would have done different, let us know in the comment section down below. We are going to be wiring up a bunch of accessories here really soon, so stay tuned for those videos and check out our golf cart accessories playlist linked in the description. Thanks for watching guys. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.